I don't know what he's talking about. I had a lot of fun. There was so many times that we would speak out in meetings. The entire team meeting would erupt in laughter. We're playing music on the team plane. We had so much fun. In the ones that I was there, I cannot understand what he's saying there. If you want a relationship and you want to double date with your coach, I mean, go play with those guys. Go ahead.
That's a good line.
Unless you want, if you want to learn how to win games and consistently win games throughout your career, you play for Bill Belichick.
Well, all right now. Cris Carter, despite his words there from Teddy, do you feel that more teams will start to mimic the way Philly is playing the game?
Well, you can't mimic the way New England has done things with Bill Belichick. Well, we've seen some people try to do it. It didn't work. His assistants, none of them have been successful. So the NFL is a copycat league, and there are certain things that they will pick up, which you can't duplicate in Philadelphia. Philadelphia got 3 running backs. They got 2 bangers, and they got 1 guy outside in the passing game or in the speed sweep game. They run a combination of 2 different offenses. They have dynamic offensive linemen that they've drafted and free agency. They have dynamic rotation of 7 guys in the NFL, played more than 400 snaps. No team had that. So who can copycat that? That part is hard to do. How can you have your MVP candidate get hurt with 3 games to go and your backup takes you to the Super Bowl? Who can copycat that? There are things that the Eagles are doing that you can't copy, but there are things that they did you can copy. Howie Roseman, how did he fill out the bottom part of that roster? He got some good veteran players who took minimum salary or a little bit more so they can play in a winning culture. LeGarrette Blount, Chris Long, 1 guy on offense, 1 guy on defense. So those types of things, because you've created a winning culture, you can copycat those things. But Philadelphia has done some things with brick and mortar that can't be duplicated. I mean, it'd be like Dallas Cowboys. They got a great offensive line. Who can duplicate the power and the force that they have between their offensive line and in their backfield with Ezekiel Elliott? So it's easier said than done.
But what we see, and when they say what Bruschi's talking about, Lane Johnson's talking about, and so much of the conversation has nothing to do with the X's and O's things you're actually discussing. And listen, you're right that why do the Patriots win championships? It's a long list, but at the top of the list is their quarterback, their incredibly detail-oriented coach, and the great X's and O's as far as salary cap management and roster churn. Why did the Eagles win the championship? It's all the things you mentioned. But what people do is, and we discussed this yesterday, they ascribe part of the winning to non-football stuff. And when we say it's a copycat league, we've seen teams try to mimic the way New England runs their organization from a non-football perspective. And I believe, hopefully, because it's a copycat league, I would like teams to copy the Eagles' more freewheeling non-football perspective, because I don't think it helps or hurts you. I think there's positives and negatives to the way New England runs things. I understand people would say, oh, well, what could the possible negatives be to having such a buttoned-up, one-voice organization? Well, here's one. Maybe if there was a little more freedom in New England, someone could have gone to Bill Belichick mid-second quarter of the Super Bowl and said, hey, Malcolm Butler needs to play, man. This is a damn Super Bowl. Like, in other organizations, that can happen. Maybe not to the head coach, to the D coordinator, to somebody. In New England, you can't. But because New England has won so much, we have said everything they do contributes to the winning, even if everything they do doesn't. So I don't know if the freedom you give not you, but the freedom the Eagles have actually contributes to them having won the Super Bowl. My guess is it probably doesn't. But I don't think it hurt them in winning the Super Bowl either.
Right. I got respect for New England because it's like going to graduate school. It's a think tank for football players. Like, they have typically more college graduates on the team. They have the pressure on the players to be more team-oriented in their thoughts compared to individual goals. And also, they make you become more mature. How you handle the media, how you handle social media, all that stuff is very, very important to me. Now, I never won a Super Bowl. I would have loved to have Bill Belichick be able to handle a lot of the ugly stuff that I had to deal with as a player. I would have loved to just come to work and do my job. That's the greatest thing I've ever heard. Just come to work and do your job, try to get better at your job, and you're being taught by one of the greatest professors that's ever taught the game of football or whatever subject that you would like. So for me, as a person, I consider myself a learned person. I like to get information. And getting it from one of the best, I can understand what Teddy says. But there's other drawbacks. They had a running back that was late for a meeting after a 100-yard game. They cut him. Now, as a player, with that being one of my buddies, like, I wouldn't like to see that. Other things that I've heard about New England with players and the way the contracts are done, split contracts. A lot of teams don't do split contracts, but New England, they'll force you to sign a split contract. That means you're agreeing to two salaries. One if you're on the roster and healthy, and another one if you happen to get injured, which in this game, you're going to get injured.
Right.
So they have a lot of guys who compromise money and everything, and they don't have a bunch of Super Bowl. Tom has 5. Bill has 5, but the rest of the guys, they don't have they don't have that collection of rings to be able to go with Belichick and Brady.
And at times you wonder if they are in order to stay true to their philosophy or their system, if they are actually putting themselves in the best position to win an individual football game. I mentioned the Malcolm Butler thing. How about this? Wes Welker in a divisional round playoff game. He does a relatively harmless bit about Rex Ryan and feet. The Rex Ryan foot thing had come out, and he was like, put my best foot forward, to toe in the water.
Right.
And
you have to realize, though, on Monday, Bill Belichick, he presents the information. And this is who we're going against.
Right.
This information's out there about an opposing team or opposing coach. We're not going to address it. Like, they know exactly. So he goes against the grain. And said, we're not going to address it. He ends up saying it 10 times in an interview.
But there's a lot of teams that would have disciplined him in a way that didn't put their team, because he got benched for the first quarter. They ended up scoring 3 points that first quarter, losing that football game when they're 13-point favorites. Like, there are a lot of teams that would have disciplined him for that, but not in a way that affects the other 52 guys on the roster.
I totally hear and appreciate it, Nick. I'd say this. I'm no Patriots fan, right? But their legacy of success is very difficult to argue with. So, therefore, what I'm not going to do is start cherry-picking the method that works for them. And I'll say this. We're talking about cause and effect, kind of back to yesterday's conversation, right? The fun factor, where does it belong in this calculus of whether or not that's what gets them 5 rings, Chris? I'm not certain that it's a primary factor, but I'll look at my team, the Carolina Panthers, and they say when Cam is having fun, he's the best out there. But we can't depend on Cam having fun in order to get us to a Super Bowl, because we saw what happened when we tried that.
Yeah, I've been trying to tell you that.
It's true. It's true. And I love my Panthers, but it is what it is.
Both of y'all love some Panthers on that side.
Cover it up. Did the Warriors disrespect the Suns last night?
Disappointment on the horizon.
That's next on First Things First. Quit hating Chris Carter.
Said, respect on my name.
It seems like they're going to be an issue.